Thank you, Chairman. So the certification process is my primary concern here as a legislator, as a member of Congress who sits on the T&I committee. Our job is to create the framework under which regulations will be promulgated that are going to be the things that keep the flying public safe. And I think that the first thing I want to say is that this might be the first time in Boeing's history that we're facing a situation where the culture of the company's top management was controlled more by a profit motive because of short-term concerns than by the long-term business model that you keep bringing up of safety. Based on all of the things that we've seen here today, I'm interested in figuring out how we make sure that as we come up with that framework that might need to be reevaluated, whether it's the type certification, amended type certification, or when we drill down into it, what gets into a manual or not, and how much pilot training is required. I've heard you say a number of times the system can be improved, and I'm wondering if you have some specific areas that we as legislators need to be looking at.
Congresswoman, I appreciate that question, and while we've had some challenging questions today, I think we have a shared objective around safety of the aviation system. We believe there are several areas where we can work together. Some are on the regulatory front. We've discussed earlier things around design guidelines. Some of the long-standing industry standards I think need to be revisited. There are some regulations on the books that could be updated to take advantage of new technology. We believe
what are those long-standing industry standards?
Pardon?
What's a long-standing industry standard that you specifically think that we need to be looking at? A good example are
assumptions around pilot reaction times in various failure modes and scenarios. So again, it gets to what we assumed on pilot reaction times, for example, in an MCAS failure scenario. We think it's time for us to revisit those from an industry standpoint, especially for digitally enhanced airplanes going forward. We think there are opportunities for us to work together on talent development, the pipeline for future pilots and maintenance technicians.
Do any of the longstanding industry standards that you think need to be looked at include things that as a manufacturer you would be in charge of?
Well,
because the two things that you mentioned have to do with pilot training.
Okay. The first one has to do with design criteria. John, you wanted to?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think there's advisory circulars released by the FAA that should be updated, but then there's also our own internal guidelines and design guides that need to be updated to reflect what we're learning from these two accidents.
We've also updated our design requirements organization internally to do some better cross-sharing across defense and military sectors. I think that's an area where the government can help. I think investing in future simulation technology, taking advantage of virtual reality and augmented reality technologies to enhance pilot training opportunities is another area. The science of human factors and how we design for the future, another example.
Do you think that, what about when it comes to type certification and the improvements or advancements technologically that have been made? We've spent this whole time talking about the family of 737s that got the original certification in 1967. What do you think we need to be doing about making sure that as lots of new technology and an entirely new system is being integrated into a aircraft, that we're doing our jobs to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Because you're talking about a lot of improvements that you're already making, that it sounds like we need to be making sure that the FAA as regulators know about those things before we run into a situation like this.
Yeah, I would recommend, and this is one of the JADER recommendations, is that the FAA work with industry on Part 21 on the change product rule and see if there's any enhancements that are required in that area.
I yield back.
I believe this will be the